Okay, so today we're looking at an instrument cluster from I think 2014 Ford Falcon FG model, XR, could be XR6 or XR8, I'm not sure. According to the fault description, fuel gauge and tacho or rev counter intermittently don't work. There's no other lights to suggest any other faults. So we can see the fuel gauge is currently sitting at a quarter and the temperature gauge is sitting at almost a third, almost a half, and the tacho is on 500. I guess it was just power was removed abruptly while it was in operation. Would usually cause that, or a very serious impact would shake the needle around. But I'm thinking, because the fuel gauges are usually quite slow moving and temperature, but this looks like it may have had the power removed rather abruptly, so maybe it was pulled out of the vehicle while the vehicle was running, or maybe it is where they sat after the key was turned off from whatever other error it's got. Let's see if we can get the front shroud off first. Just a couple of clips there. It appears to be molded right around down to here. So that comes off. We've got these retained, these buttons, and we've got these long rods that go down to the actual switch themselves. Do they come out? They appear to be stuck on for now, so we'll leave them there. Side cover's loose, that comes off separately. Now next, can we take the back cover off, or do we have to take the front plastic off first? I'm thinking this clear plastic might stay in the black plastic section and come off with it, because the seam is there. No, I think the clear bit's going to have to come off first. Okay, the top, clips at the top edge seem to release it easier than the clips at the bottom, so if we do them first, and that'll let it come up with the bottom clips. This plastic they use can be quite brittle, so you want to be just real gentle with it. Well, look, that comes off. Okay, so that's held in by the other frame. These white clips here are going to retain it. There's a couple of those there and a couple of those on the other side, I'd imagine. Oh yeah, there's some around the top. And it's free. Now this white section is gonna stay there until we get the needles off. You'll remember in my last video I talked about how to find your ignition and battery and ground wires if you don't have a wiring diagram. Here's a perfect example again. Your battery and ignition pins will go to input diodes. So if we have a look at, so over on the left here you can see there's a diode here, there's a diode here, and there's a diode over here. And if we check against this diode, you can see that the pin that I'm on there, which is the fifth one in, so it's one from the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth one in from the right, and that's one of our pins. We don't necessarily know if it's battery or ignition. And then the sixth one, so the next one over, does it go to this diode? No. Does it go to this diode? Yes. So those two are likely our input, and that's because the only thing they go to are these diodes. It's not something that a signal would be coming out of that pin, so it has to go through the diode. So then you've got to find your ground. So you hit your nice large capacitor there, dead giveaway. There's well, this is definitely a voltage regulator over here, some sort of transistor there, and if we run our meter lead along the pins, we can find that's probably a ground, and that's another ground. Looking for 0 ohms, of course. There's another one. So it's quite likely that there is a couple of grounds in the connector. So what I'm going to do though, since obviously you don't want to solder onto these pins, I can't immediately get the back of the connector, so just to see what happens when we put power on this, I'm just going to solder wire directly to ground and directly to each of those diodes, and we'll feed it power that way. Okay, so according to the wiring diagram that I found, it proves that this bottom right pin there is indeed ground, which is pin 1, and then fifth one along here is battery, and the one beside it is ignition. So this is ignition. So to be safe, I've set it on a 1/2 amp current limit. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Then I will connect it now and we will see what happens. Cool. So as you saw, the gauges went 0, so that's a good sign. Red blinking key light for security. Now if I connect ignition, here we go. So it's going to let us know about all of the problems that it is encountering. Looking at their 0 positions, it is pretty much on the 0 as far as those go, and the other gauges, which are zeroed, pretty much right on the 0 line. So that's good to know. If we get them out of position like that, take the needle off, we know the motors are going to self-home, and then we can put the needle right back on in that position once it's in home. So if I were to power it up from there and there, it would self-home. You'll see what I mean. Here we go. Let's go with our ever faithful spoon method. And nice and even pressure on each spoon. You don't want to be cocking it off to one side. They came off a lot easier than the last one. I didn't even need to try. I'll do it again on this one. Some nice gentle lift, and look at that, off. Now this section should lift off, but we also have, be aware, there's an LCD here. So we need to unplug that connector. It's just a standard ribbon connector type, flat flex connector, and we'll encourage that to come out with just grab the edge of it with some pliers maybe. There we go. You don't want to just sort of you know, pull it apart and let it tug on the edge of the LCD in order to pull it out, just in case it's a snug fit. Okay, first things first, I guess. What about input plugs? Are they most likely source of dry joints, I guess? Not too bad looking, possibly one there. And on the other side, sad, they don't look all bad at all. Well, that only leaves things like these large components that always give us trouble. But fuel gauge issue and tacho specifically. So I guess we need to look at where the fuel gauge signal comes in. And yeah, that looks pretty bad down there. So right there, looks like it's missing some, didn't really get a decent solder blob on that end, so we'll redo that one. I don't know what part that plays in anything. That one's crooked, but I don't think it's an issue. Looks firmly attached. That one looks like there could be a ring starting to form around there, so I'll reflow that one. Probably all of them anyway, just as a matter of course. Now, which gauge is our fuel and which is our... So there's not too much going on this side, so we'll just flip the board. The tacho is right there. So I guess we could reflow components in this area. Looks like they must be driving the tacho. I wonder where the pins come through for connection to actually drive that stepper. It's not really obvious. There's a plastic that hold the motor on the board in position. Nothing hugely obvious as to where the stepper motor solders on. Surely they're not surface mount. Well, I'm not seeing a lot, so it might just have to be a blanket approach to reflowing. So these little stepper motors don't actually solder on. They just have connections that push down onto these pads here. So here's the underside of said stepper motor. Now I did notice that the back end of it was slightly up off the PCB, and I thought, oh yeah, so I wonder if it wasn't making a very perfect connection there. You can see there's some dielectric grease applied as well, but yeah, so you just push the pin down through the center of that piece there, and then the sides compress and allow it to pull out of the PCB. These bits go up and lock into the PCB. Maybe it was just a bad connection under there. I may just pop off the others and we will double check what they look like. But we have a nice close look at this pad. Does it look clean? Does it look like it would have made a good connection? Might be worth giving them a little bit of a clean. That one actually looks darker than those ones. What are they like for resistance? Should be absolutely short. Yeah, pretty good. Connections that sit in one place for a long time can go off and no longer connect, so it'd be worth reseating them. How does each pin look underneath there? Almost spotless. I guess the end of the swab is a little darker. Definitely something's come off there. Let's rub one of these unused ones and see what happens. Yeah, it's quite dark. Must accumulate a lot of dirt, dust and whatnot over time. Alright, well I'm going to call that cleaned. And I'm just trying to find my dielectric grease. Found it. I never use it, and then when I want to use it, if I've moved it from where it always lived, I'll forget where I moved it to. Just ever so slight lift to make them sit up a bit higher. And it's got one locator pin, so you can't put it in the wrong way around. And then it should clip down through the PCB like that. So when I push the pin up through the middle, it'll lock those pieces out so I can't move. And I have to push something down there to push the pins out. Hopefully my tweezer will work. I don't know. Oh yeah, feels like it's going to work. Don't want to push it all the way through, of course, so we'll just have a nosy and see where it's at. And they've come up. You can see it's nicely in between those. I wonder if I should check the fuel gauge, then pop that off and just see what condition the contacts are in. We'll do that. I don't have access to the vehicle, so this is just going to be a try and see type fix, unfortunately. So removing the fuel gauge, we will just push the pin back up. There's one there. We'll see if that's released it enough to fall out. Just give it a bit of a squeeze, and that worked. That worked. Much the same, really. So we'll give them a clean. Quite a bit less dielectric grease used on this one, and a nice amount of dirt coming off there. Mainly these bottom two on the right, they were the dirtiest. Right, I guess next step would be to do a bit of reflowing. Dead giveaway. Sometimes you can resolder one end and then the whole thing will come off because the other end's cracked through. So those are going to be those 6-1R9 resistors there, those two there and two there. They are going to be on our CAN bus. I'm pretty sure there's our CAN receivers there, TJA 1040, those ICs, quite commonly used CAN bus ICs, and those resistors provide balance. So you should have 120 ohms between CAN high and CAN low, I think it is, and that's what they are providing there. But yeah, they're both measuring 123, because they are, anyway, yeah, they're sitting at 123, it's fine. We have two of them, and I'm pretty sure in the wiring diagram I only saw, oh no, there is two CAN lines there. There we are, yep, there is two. It doesn't tell me where they go to right away. You can see the detail on another page, but I guess we could reflow the CAN ICs just to make sure that those gauges, it's not like they're not working because of a CAN signaling issue. I mean, maybe it is. It'd be really cool if I could get hold of a universal CAN bus instrument cluster signaling test system. I wonder if they exist, and I could just pass CAN info to any cluster and have the gauges move. I did make one that went for a specific gauge, but it would be really interesting to try on another one actually, just to see if they all use the same CAN data for fuel and tacho and so on, at least within the same models. I think it was a Ford that I tried it on. I think they're all firmly attached. A little bit of a wiggle. Yep. Well, I think that's everything on that side we can look at. Now we'll just run down this connector just for the sake of it, and the other one. Let's call it done, shall we? Like I said, I haven't got the vehicle. Do all the basics and cross your fingers. What do you think those are you doing? 2AA63SM. Curious to see what they do. Maybe they're stepper drivers. Maybe. 2AA63SM. Do a quick Google. Anything comes up? Nope. So let's look at the other number then. ULQ2003AT. ULQ2003AT. High voltage, high current, Darlington. That could be our stepper driver. Oh, or is it? Oh yeah. Good for 500 milliamp rated collector current. Ideal for stepper drivers. So, if we're having intermittent issues with steppers, how about we reflow those? Let's pop off the speedo. They look a lot cleaner under there. I'm going to power it up and let the needles go to home position. So now we should be able to put them on. Man, I don't know why the fuel and temp have to be so much tighter. Power on. Cool. That's sitting at 0. Okay, now we will ignition switch on. Looks good. So I thought I was going to be smart and say leave these covers off till last and they'll just pop on. And that way you can guide the light rods up through to the switches on the buttons on the front there. No, it doesn't work like that. These have to seat in behind here first and then the cover goes on top. So you just kind of have to fumble your way through getting those to line up on each side into the respective buttons. So there we are. I will report back as to whether this works. Thanks for watching.